All right, so we're going to start with a butterfly pose. And to do this, just want to bring the soles of your feet together. Now, I have to really emphasize when we're doing butterfly for the back and the spine for people to push their feet out, because they always want to do this one. But this is the one that everyone wants to do today. So we're going to pull our heels in close, drop our knees down, and then when we come forward, we should feel a stretch right in here in the inside of the thighs. Okay. So if you don't feel that, then another option is the frog pose, okay, where you're on your hands, your knees, you take your knees wide. That's another groin stretch with the knees bent, which gets the shorter adductors like pectineus and brevis, those adductors. It kind of targets them a little bit more, okay? Today we are doing 5 minutes, which I like to call the gold standard. So we're going to be here a nice long time for our yin postures. Feel free to use support if you need it under the knees, forehead, forearms, but always remember that you can have too much, and you've got too much when you're no longer feeling the stretch, right? So if you put blocks under your knees, you're nice and comfy, but you're not feeling any stretch, then it's too much. Okay, so let's come up and then we'll do our second posture in this set, which is going to be dragonfly. And now we're targeting the longer adductors like longus, magnus, and gracilis. Okay, so pretty much as straight and wide as you can go. You want to get the sense that you're being pulled forward and not backward. So if you feel like you're being pulled backward, then sit on something like a block. Also, you can bend the knees, and you could even put blocks under the knees so you don't have to use your muscles to do that. But again, if you fell asleep, you want to feel like you're being pulled forward, okay? And then we feel it right in here, the inside of the thighs, and this is dragonfly pose. Again, feel free to use support, forehead, forearms as necessary. Sometimes I get questions about which way should my feet point. You don't need to point them in any particular direction. You can. So if you like flexing them, you like pointing them, go ahead. It can change what you feel here. But most people can relax completely in this and feel the stretch. And remember, we want to feel safe. We want to feel the stretch, and we want to feel that we can sustain that position for the 5 minutes. Another question that comes up with these types of postures is, do I need to keep my back straight? Again, you can. It's going to be more work. And for most people, it's easier, safe, and you actually get a little bit of extra benefit decompressing your spine. So for most people, the recommendation is just relax, let your back round. But of course, if you have an injury, if it doesn't feel right, you can keep your spine straight if you prefer. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a little rest now, okay? So this is our rebound. Coming back before doing any counter stretching, we just feel. So I definitely feel my back. I feel my legs. But very quickly, those sensations begin to dissipate. Now remember, one of the reasons we do this is very often, I'd say most of the time, if not all the time, the areas where we feel the most sensitivity are the areas receiving the most benefit. In theory, if you were like just the picture of health, your joints and your muscles and everything were just perfect, 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 you would come out of the pose and you just really wouldn't feel much of anything. You just feel good, just sort of feel energy flowing. If you're my age and been through what I've been through in my life, then there's definitely, you feel some sensitivity and vulnerability coming out. And so again, the way to think about that is those areas that are kind of speaking to you, they're actually being nourished by what you just did. And that's why you're feeling them. So we don't need to be alarmed by that. We want to actually be like, oh, well, that's good. I sort of nourished those areas. It also helps you gain awareness of what areas are vulnerable, right? Are weak, or which areas might have been damaged or might be on the verge of being damaged. All right, let's go ahead and bring our legs in, give them a little squeeze. We shake it out now. So the rebound, 30 seconds, a minute, we're just really paying attention to what we feel. And then moving a little bit. There's deeper aspects to the rebound. I don't speak much about them in this format, but in yoga, we also become aware of energy flows, and that's a lot of what many people do in meditation, is they sort of watch their energy of their body, different areas of their body. And that's another thing you can cultivate during that rebound time. Okay, let's hinge up. So hands under hips, extend the legs unless there's pain in your back, and then you bend the knees. Lift the head and neck, take a deep breath, exhale, lower the legs toward the ground. And then just before you touch, pause, inhale, pop those legs up, and exhale up to seated. Okay, so now we target the hamstrings, the muscles here in the back of the thigh. We'll have the right leg straight, take the left foot to the inside of the thigh. And we're looking for a hamstring stretch. So again, for the vast majority of people, letting the back round, not pulling yourself down, but letting the arms relax. Most people will not need support, but if you do, use a block under your forehead or forearms or a bolster, something like that. Again, we have our three check boxes that we want to check in our own mind. I feel the stretch, I feel safe, I feel that I can hold this for 5 minutes. Okay, we're switching sides. So half butterfly, side 2. All right, let's take another little rest, a rebound. So yeah, as some of you know, I've recently had a flare-up. My back's not been what it once was. And on Monday I had a little bit of a flare-up. And so I can definitely feel that in my yin practice as I come out. I definitely am feeling my back quite a bit coming out of these forward folds. And the forward folds can be very therapeutic for the back. So again, that sensitivity I'm feeling, the way I usually interpret that is it's actually helping to stimulate that part of my body to become healthy again. If I simply avoid all things that bring me that sense of sensitivity, vulnerability, then my back may never heal. And so yin, among other things, are how I go about healing my back. And it's something that I've done in the past. I've gotten my back from an injury completely pain-free, and I know other people who've done that as well. So it's possible without surgery, without drugs, at least in some instances, it's possible to heal yourself. But in my experience, it does take work, and this is part of the work of doing that. Okay, let's bring our legs in, give them a squeeze, shake it out. And then we hinge up. Okay, so now we'll do either a square or a shoelace. So the square pose is done where I just basically sit cross-legged, and then I come forward, and I'm looking for a stretch out here. These are the glutes, okay? So for some people, this will be enough. If you want to just take it up a notch, take the top foot and place it here, and then again, want to feel stretch out here. Okay, and then the final option is a shoelace, which looks like this. The knees are stacked, and then we come forward. But again, the area is still right here that we want to feel it. So this morning, I'm feeling this version. They all can work for me depending on the day and depending on what I'm looking for. But this is the one that right now I'm feeling the most, is serving me the best, okay? Again, support can be used, forehead, forearms. And this is one of the major differences between this flow and the other one that I sequenced. There's a lot more forward folding in this particular sequence. So in the other one, we would be doing like a swan, a sleeping swan. And you're welcome to do that here if you prefer. But in this sequence, we're just doing these forward folds. Our last posture will be on our back, so there is a little bit of variety there. Okay, so we're switching sides. Square pose or shoelace, that's the name of these two. I'm doing the square today. And again, this is targeting our glutes and rotators, the muscles in the outside of the hip complex. Okay, let's take a break. All right, so we'll make our way up and then back, and let's relax and feel. So again, today I'm just trying to share a little bit about my rebounds to give you some idea of what you might look for. This was the first set where I didn't feel my back or my spine as I came out. I definitely was feeling the residual of the stretch in the deep part of my rotators and my muscles in my hips. So again, I don't know exactly what that means. It could mean that my spine is starting to get better after doing the practice. I'm stretching things out. It's starting to get nourished more. It could just be that particular set. So maybe I just wasn't stressing the spine as much in that position. I'll know more when I practice tomorrow or the next day. If I do yin again, I can observe whether or not certain postures produce a consistent result, or if the sensations change and evolve in terms of my healing. Okay, let's bring our legs in, give them a squeeze again. This might seem random or like an extra bit that isn't part of the sequence, but it is. This is very intentional. If you don't feel like moving, I still recommend that you move. You know, some people don't like being still, some people don't like moving, but these are both very important and very good for us to do. So sometimes we need to force ourselves to exercise and move, and sometimes we need to force ourselves to be still. Okay, let's hinge up, and we'll do our last set. Okay, final set is focusing on the quads here, this muscle at the front of the thigh. We fold the right foot back. Now the toes can point back or out to the side. If my ankle hurts, I can roll a blanket and place that underneath the ankle. So if you imagine this is a roll, a lot larger obviously, but you place that under there. You can pad the foot with a blanket, so just add a padding underneath the whole leg or just the ankle and the foot if you like, okay? So we want this to not detract from our experience. We don't want the pain here to be so bad we need to come out of the pose. Same with the knee. So my knee is bothering me. I can change the angle. That helps many people. I can also sit up on something. It's another option. And once you have the knee and the ankle happy, if you feel a stretch here already, then I would recommend just stay right here. Just sit here, okay? If you don't feel it, then you can begin lowering back. So to the hands, elbows, onto a bolster, which is like a big pillow, or you can lay back onto the crown of your head or all the way onto your back. Very, very common question. I was teaching this last night and someone asked, what happens if my knee comes up? You know, is that dangerous? Is that wrong? It's fine. Okay, so my knee is actually off the ground. It may look like it's touching the ground, but it's not. Now I can force it down like that, but if I do, I actually feel much more strain in my knee, and I really want to minimize the strain. Okay, so letting the knee come up, even though that's not a closed chain stretch anymore, now it's actually, in my opinion, my experience, it's safer that way. I'm putting less stress on the knee joint by letting it come up a little bit. Now, what if you're all the way back and you don't really feel the stretch in the front of your thigh? I don't. What you can do is bend this knee and place this foot on the ground, the knee pointing straight up. For many people, that's enough. It may not be apparent or obvious at first why that doing this would create a stretch here, but it's because your legs are attached with a lot of thick fascia, connective tissue. So what you do with one leg affects the other. We can also drop the knee out to the side. Okay, this can be a great way to create a stretch. For me, that's much better, much more satisfying. And then finally, if you're really, really flexible in this direction, you may need to pull this leg in manually. Some people may even need to straighten this leg and pull it up. So I've got students that are like that. I don't need to go that far. This is good for me, okay? So again, it isn't a competition. One misconception people have about yoga is, oh, I'm trying to do that straight leg thing. Like, because that's the most flexible position, they think that, okay, I'm trying to work my way up to that. And if I keep practicing, one day I'm going to be able to do that. Absolutely not. Okay, that's absolutely incorrect. For many body types, they either will never be able to do that, or they should never do that. So when you see those posters of the yogis doing all the crazy variations of the postures, those posters are sending a very, I think, harmful message to people who practice yoga. It's sort of saying, this is what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to do all this crazy stuff. And there are yoga teachers from India who teach that way. So it's not just Western people who've created this image or this idea. But I've been studying yoga for a long time. And I go back and I read the scriptures, the old stuff, the stuff that's thousands of years old. Because sometimes, as time goes along, the intent and the message of something can get lost. I think everyone's probably had the experience to play the telephone game, right? If you haven't, I'll describe it to you. Usually it's children, and you sit in a big circle, and you tell the first person something, and you say it to the next person, and you go around. And then the last person has to say out loud what the message was, what the thing was. And the last person says something that's completely different than the first person said. So what happened? Well, this is human communication. One person says something, the next person interprets it and filters it through their own mind. They think they're simply repeating what was said to them, but it's not what was said. The next person does the same thing. They hear the phrase, the statement, they interpret it without realizing they're doing so. They're filtering it. And then when they open their mouth to share it to the next person, they simply think they're passing along what was said. They're not. They're changing it. And so this happens in yoga and spirituality and all kinds of areas of human endeavor. All right, let's switch sides. So I'm not saying this to try and criticize anybody or make anybody feel bad, but I am saying it to illustrate a point. And that is that the intent of something like yoga can very easily get lost in translation, not only from India to the United States, which I think definitely happens for sure. Many Westerners will come to yoga with a certain outlook, and many Westerners approach yoga simply as a fitness program. And so then they interpret everything through the idea of, well, this is a fitness program. And anything that doesn't fit into that framework, they either tend to reject or marginalize. So anything they don't understand, then if they don't think of breathing as important to fitness, then they'll sort of put that aside. And you can take yoga classes like that, where the teacher will never talk about breathing. In Yin, we don't do it. It's just not really appropriate for this style. But I teach other classes, and many of you have taken those classes with me, where the breathing is really emphasized. So it can be, as yoga transitions from east to west, certain things get misinterpreted or lost, just like the telephone game, but also over time. Cultures change over time, and ideas change and evolve. And I wish I could say they were always for the better, but often they're not. And so the way a modern Indian person reads a scripture or interprets a scripture, understands something, can be very different than what the intention of that scripture was. Also, people will use things for their own benefit and to serve their own interests. And so if I'm someone in India and I find that Western people are interested in fitness, and I can present yoga as a fitness program, I don't present it as having anything to do with spirituality or meditation. I find, okay, Westerners aren't interested in that, but they're interested in this stretching and these exercises. So then if I can present it to them in that way, in a palatable way, then I might make a lot of money and I might become famous. But I may still be misrepresenting what yoga is really about. So, like I said, those posters where we see people, doing all the different variations and things like that, there's nothing wrong with doing that if your body can do that. But it's a minority of people. It's very few people. And I've met some of those people, contortionists, people who can do all kinds of crazy things with their body. And I can assure you, they're not any more enlightened. They're not any happier. They're not any more peaceful than anybody else. So being able to put both legs behind your head, being able to pull this leg up straight in this position, being able to do a full lotus, being able to do a handstand. I know these people. I've met these people, and I assure you, they are not free of any of the troubles and the problems and the sufferings that the rest of us have. So for me, this is really what yoga is about. It's about peace. It's about joy. It's about being able to receive and express love and compassion. And this is something that all of us human beings have the capacity for, much more than most of us imagine. We can experience so much joy and so much peace and feel such love and express and receive it and experience deep, deep compassion. And some of these things aren't what we think they are. They don't present in the way that we think. Many of us think that jealousy comes with love. It doesn't. Love is free completely of jealousy. Jealousy is something else. Guilt, shame, these have nothing to do with love or compassion. But many times we mix those things up. All right, let's go ahead and come on out of that. Let's rebound. So again, this set, I'm not really feeling the spine. I feel the effects in my legs there. All right. Let's bring those legs in, give them one last shake out. And then, if you have time, let's unwind onto the back. Close our eyes. Set your timer. 6 minutes is what I recommend. That's 10% of the class time. You're just going to relax there till the timer goes off. If you want to relax longer, please do.